What's up, world? Back for vlog number 2, and just in case you're wondering, I do these in my car because it's convenient and I'm on the move throughout the day. That's the first reason, but the second reason is a car provides really good acoustics for recording. It's very similar to a sound booth where you would do vocals or recording for like music. Because of the glass and the upholstery, it makes for a really good acoustic sound. So convenience and quality is the sound quality is the reason why I'm doing them. So one of the questions I get asked the most is once people know that they find out that I'm a tech founder, entrepreneur, and I don't have a tech background. The question they want to know is, oh, look, or really what they say to me is, I have this great idea, this concept for an app or a software solution. Usually it's software based. Sometimes it could be hardware based, but most of the time it's app or software based, and it's a solution to a problem they've either encountered or some sort of market gap that they've noticed. And that's a plug for the platform again, completely coincidental. That's just serendipity. But pun intended. So they want to know how do I get my idea off the ground? How do I roll something like this and bring it out to market, right? So usually the traditional conventional thinking would be, okay, if you have an idea and you want to develop it, everybody knows that really good programmers domestically are very expensive. They can run into the almost lawyer price points, right? On an hourly basis. So most people can't afford that. So the alternative would be to fix that the cash shortage issue would be to basically export their ideas overseas to countries like India, Bangladesh, and some Eastern European countries who have highly trained workforces that, especially in the math and science fields, but charge significantly less than their American counterparts, right? So they'll say, oh, you can get a team of developers in India for this amount of money, and you could build your app or your solution for a couple $1,000s, where it would be six figures easily to do it stateside. But the problem and the flaw in that is that first of all, you have to understand there's a culture gap. Both in terms of you not coming from the technology space, not necessarily understanding the buzzwords and the terminology that you would need in order to effectively communicate or express your ideas to them. So that's the first hurdle that you're going to face. The next one is there's a cultural gap. The work culture is different in different countries, so you would have to account for that. And probably the most important and the one that poses the most threat, in my opinion, is having to divulge your IP, which stands for intellectual property. In order for you to effectively communicate your idea to them, you'd have to basically draw them, play-by-play of what it is that you're trying to do. And if you're not doing that, if you're not giving them enough information, you run the risk of them not building the product the right way. So that's very precarious. And then if you do end up with a great idea, you've also given them they own the source code. I mean, they have the possession of the source code. So what's to stop them from taking the product to market before you? And then them just knowing your whole IP is always going to be a threat to you. So in my opinion, that does not serve as a viable option. And I could tell you some stories about people who did try to take that route, and I have yet to find somebody that was completely non-technical that was able to pull it off. I've seen some situations where somebody was a technical person themselves, but they just didn't have the money to employ as many people as they needed. So that it worked out for them because they could vet the work that they were getting and make sure that everything was up to par. And there was a quality control built into their relationship. So those are the problems. So what's the solution? First of all, the idea of a non-tech founder being the founder and CEO, leader of a tech company is nothing foreign. The phone that I'm using, the iPhone XS Max, that I'm using to record on right now was created by a gentleman by the name of Steve Jobs, the late great Steve Jobs, who was not a technical guy himself and who did not come from a technical background or experience coding or engineer. He had a symbiotic relationship with Steve Wozniak, a friend of his who was the engineer and who was the brains behind the actual technology. So my suggestion would be to find somebody locally that has the technical acumen to execute on the idea that you have. Now, the question you would have will probably be, well, how do I find these people? They're not exactly walking around with signs saying, I will work for equity, right? So there are a lot of local meetups. Meetup is actually a really good app to find these on, and you can localize your search. And I know in the DMV area, there are at least 5 to 10 of these a week. And you can look up these events based on proximity and the subject matter that you're looking for. In this case, it would be non-tech founder meetups. Like, you can use that as a search term. Or even if you look under technology and you scroll down through the available events in your area, chances are you'd be able to find somebody there. Now, the key is you would have to create enough value to warrant their interest, right? So the very first thing I would tell people that ask me, and I get this question a lot, is you need to create value. How do you do that? Well, you come up with an idea, right? Then you have to go through that idea and flesh it out. So the first idea that you have, and everything sounds good in your head, right? So any concept that you have, any solution, it's just an abstract thought floating around in your head. It may sound good, but it needs to stand up to scrutiny, right? And the way that you do that is by writing a business plan. And you can just Google technology business plans, startup business plans in a nanosecond on Google and find a bunch of templates that are even specific to the type of software that you're trying to create. And it'll give you an outline and a template of how to actually take the idea that you have and put it on paper and see if it can really, if it really is as good as it sounds in your head. And the purpose of the business plan is, at the end of it, have you created a compelling enough argument to warrant the actual justification of the effort to create this software platform or this solution or this venture, right? So by the end of the business plan, like, you'll be able to know whether or not this has a market fit, just based on the research that it requires you to do and the amount of information that you would have to actually put on paper in order to create the business plan by virtue of the templates. So 2 takeaways here, actually 3 takeaways. One, a non-tech founder of a tech company is not only an actual thing, but it's a very common thing. 2, outsourcing technology work overseas when you're not a tech founder is dangerous, time consuming, and can be more costly than it would be to actually hire somebody here, where you would have more oversight and quality control and a lot of recourse measures should anything go wrong. And number 3, there are people in your city right now that have the skill sets that you don't have, and that would be willing, provided that you can create a strong argument and create a value proposition for them, that would be willing to partner with you in order to offset your lack of technical acumen. And I would always recommend that you put everything in writing, and every agreement should be, you should consult, somebody for legal counsel, and have things like non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, non-competes, and a partnership contract drawn up so everybody is clear about what their responsibilities, expectations, roles are from the jump. So that's how you would get started. And I'll do another vlog a little bit down the line where I'll give you kind of the next step. But if you have an idea and it's software based or tech based, and you think that it's something that would be viable in the marketplace, but the thing that's stopping you is not having the technical acumen or the skill or the proficiency to bring it to market, there's definitely people in your area right now that could possibly partner up with you on the venture, provided you create enough value and you reach out to them and you consummate your agreement and your relationship on paper and document everything. All right, catch y'all on the next one. Thanks.